It's a world we all love and can't get enough of. And it's a perfect example of how one mind can create an entire world for millions of people to love. This is Hacky23, and in today's episode we're gonna talk about the wonderful world of wizards, witches and Weasleys. The wizarding world of Harry Potter. Over the course of 7 books and 8 movies, we have seen a wide variety of incredibly useful and slightly lesser useful spells. In today's top 10, we will discuss those spells who are given a little bit too much credit for what they're worth. So, without further ado, let's Alohomora this chapter with the number 10 of our list.
I will not pay to have some crackpot old fool teach him magic tricks.
Number 10, Apparicium.
Reveal your secrets.
According to the Book of Spells, chapter 2, Apparicium, or the Revealing Charm, works as follows. The charm will reveal ink and hidden messages by magical means. Simply tap a book of parchment with your wand and any hidden messages will be revealed. In short, it reveals invisible ink and or other hidden messages. There is only one certain point in the whole series during which the spell was used. In the Chamber of Secret, Hermione tried to reveal any messages in Tom Riddle's diary by using the spell. However, it failed to be of any use.
My name is Harry Potter.
Moreover, it might also have been the spell that Severus Snape used in order to reveal the hidden content of the Marauders map when he took it from Harry.
Go on.
And request that he keep his abnormally large nose out of other people's business.
What?
However, once again, the spell failed to make itself useful. This leaves us with a spell which seems pretty useful and clever, however fails to perform what most needed. Surely, it might be useful on invisible ink and badly performed hidden messages, but who would leave highly useful information behind such basic protection if there are so many other means to protect your messages unable to be penetrated by Apparicium? Number 9. Orchideus. The Orchideus spell is probably the least known spell of this list, only really being used in order to test Fleur Delacour's wand at the wand-weighing ceremony in the Goblet of Fire. The purpose of the spell is as pretty and sweet as it is relatively useless. As can be expected from a spell which finds its origin in the name of a flower, Orchideus is used in order to conjure a bucket.
No, it's not bucket, it's bouquet.
Of flowers. And that's all that is to say about the spell. The fact that Ollivander uses the spell in order to test Fleur's wand means that it is apparently a relatively difficult spell for the wand to perform. Or, which would make it slightly awkward, a very bad way of the wand maker to flirt with Fleur. Conjuring flowers out of thin air would however be useful for those who cannot be bothered to visit a florist in order to give flowers to their significant other. But besides that, it serves barely any purpose. Number 8. Descendo. Next on our list is a spell which main purpose serves to cause targeted objects to move downwards. With gravity being present even in the wizarding world, this spell is doomed to be on our list due to the sheer uselessness of its basic use. However, the spell did serve some purpose throughout the series, with its main use during the Fiendfire scene in the Room of Requirement.
I'll set the bloody place on fire!
Harry cast the spell at a set of objects in order to make it fall over and block the way so the Fiendfire wouldn't be able to follow. Another mention of the spell is during the start of the Deathly Hallows, during which Ron uses a spell to lower the ceiling hatch in the burrow, in order to show Harry the transfigured ghoul. So, besides making a hugely unstable pile of stuff fall over, which most probably would be the result of literally any kind of spell that was shot at the pile, and helping lazy people by opening hatches of any forms and shapes, my feeling is that this spell has next to no use in the wizarding world. Number 7. Meteorologians Recanto. For the number 7 on our list, we will be able to let the sun shine. Derived from the Greek word meteoron, meaning high in the sky, as well as the Latin word recantare, which means to withdraw or retract, this weather improving spell literally means to withdraw what's high up in the sky.
Got them all. It's still raining inside my office. It's 2 days now.
Have you tried an umbrella?
This spell would be highly useful if able to use whenever a storm is picking up, while you are having a romantic picnic with your significant other, or when you are to get the clouds vanish when you are longing for that incredible tan. However, this spell's only use is to counter-charm so-called weather effect spells. As with many spells on this list, it has been used a couple of times during the books and films, but seems nonetheless more or less useless in 99.5% of life. The most prominent use of this spell, or at least mention of it, is during the Deathly Hallows, while Harry, Ron and Hermione visit the Ministry of Magic and Arthur Weasley tips off Ron, disguised as Mr. Cattermole, to use the spell in order to make it stop raining in one of the offices. The second use of the spell is during the Goblet of Fire film. Barty Crouch Jr., disguised as Mad Eye, uses a non-verbal spell on the ceiling in the Great Hall in order to make it stop raining. Number 6. Colloportus. Also known as the locking spell, Colloportus has a great use of locking and or sealing doors. This seems pretty useful at first sight, and with Harry, Hermione, Luna and Neville using it at the Department of Mysteries during Order of the Phoenix, it seems a spell which is taught pretty thoroughly at Hogwarts. The only downside to this, otherwise very useful spell, is that there is an equally easy to use and well-known counter curse for it.
Over. Hello, Hamora.
Why on earth do you want to teach kids to lock doors with a spell if you also teach them how to open them? This leaves roughly everyone in the Wizarding world with a more or less universal key in their pockets. Sure, if done correctly, it could save someone a couple seconds or even longer if one who wants to open the door forgets to think about one of the most useful spells in the Wizarding world. Nevertheless, Colloportus, besides being an incredibly well-known curse, serves as little purpose as dry blowing your hair while in the rain. Number 5. Ridiculous.
Good. A little louder. Very clear. Listen. Ridiculous.
This class is ridiculous.
Very good. Well, so much for the easy part.
One of the most well-known curses in the Wizarding world is Ridiculous, or the Boggart Banishing spell. The fact that this spell is so ridiculously famous is in one word, ridiculous. But ridiculously bad puns aside, the ridiculous charm is used to counter a boggart by making it turn into something funny to laugh at.
Ridiculous!
Sure, a useful spell in the circumstances that it is useful. However, as with most of the spells on this list, the number of occasions during which you would be necessitated to use this charm are probably no larger than the amount of heads on Fluffy. Instead of teaching third years to counter boggarts, why don't they teach them to shield themselves from minor curses, since apparently the whole Wizarding world is at a loss as to how to perform the shield charm, based on the highly profitable shield charm based products that the Weasley twins are able to sell at the joke shop. Ridiculous might be useful when being used in the proper situation, but aren't there way more useful spells to be taught during Defense Against the Dark Arts? Number 4. Wingardium Leviosa. Talking about famous spells, Wingardium Leviosa, or the Levitation Charm, is one of the first spells that any witch or wizard learns during his or her time at Hogwarts.
Wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
You do it then if you're so clever. Go on.
By saying Wingardium Leviosa with the proper level of smugness, the spell can make it able for things to fly or levitate. Sure, useful I think, but there are at least 3 other charms which result in more or less the same. The Hover, Rocket and Floating charm are all aimed at making an object lift off the ground. However, these spells are way less well known than Wingardium Leviosa. Just making me wonder who was lobbying for that spell at the time it was first introduced into the Hogwarts educational system. Number 3. Portus.
Why are they all standing around that manky old boot?
That isn't just any manky old boot, mate. It's a port key.
Time to go!
What's a port key?
Ready?
The charm used to transform any ordinary object into a port key. Great, amazingly useful and incredibly cool were the first 3 things that I could think of when first reading about Portus. However, it is actually a relatively useless and cumbersome spell. First of all, the uses of the spell is strictly governed by the Ministry of Magic, meaning that you need to ask for permission before using the spell. This in itself is already quite a hassle. But the spell becomes even more obsolete when you think about the fact that the majority of wizards are able to apparate and disapparate to any location. But wait, I can hear you say, if a large group of young witches and wizards want to travel somewhere, a portkey could be very useful. Sure, that is great reasoning. But the children are at Hogwarts for like 80% of the year, and when apparating, you more or less function as a portkey as well.
Take my arm. Do as I say.
I just apparated, didn't I?
Indeed. Quite successful.
Because other people can hold on to you. So, even if some school kids would go on some kind of Wizarding World equivalent of spring break, Mom and Dad could bring them there in the blink of an eye and go back home again without any legal permissions and bureaucratic bullcrap, thus making a portkey, and therefore porters, useless. Number 2. Expecto Patronum.
Expecto Patronum!
One of the prettiest and most amazing spells in the Harry Potter universe cannot possibly on this list, can it? Oh dear listeners, it most certainly can. And it would be first on this list if it weren't for a clear number 1. The fact that the Harry Potter Wikia describes this spell as one of the most powerful defensive charms known to wizardkind makes me cringe and want to throw my laptop at the wall if it weren't for my great ability to remain calm. Okay, let there be no confusion. I really adore the Patronus spell and think it looks great and has been worth its weight in gold for Harry during the books and films. However, I feel that the spell earned its credits mainly by being there at the right place at the right time. The main purpose of the Patronus spell is to repel Dementors, or the much lesser known Lethifalls, which are, for the sake of argument, the jungle equivalent of Dementors. Based on the terrible actions that Dementors can perform, being able to defend yourself against them can be pretty handy. However, despite a relatively short time periods during which he who must not be named, aka Tom Riddle, aka Voldemort, aka the Dark Lord, aka... okay, that's enough, was at his highest power, the Dementors were serving Azkaban, and thus no one really had to use the Patronus spell to counter them. The being able to send a message through your Patronus part is useful as well.
The ministry has fallen. Minister of Magic is dead.
But all in all, the spell has received so much praise, but is no more than just some mediocre spell which looks cool. Number 1. Expelliarmus.
Expelliarmus!
Fantastic, Neville. Well done. So,
without a doubt, and by a clear mile, Expelliarmus is the most overvalued spell in the whole Wizarding World. A spell so simple, it can be mastered by any wizard, based on the fact that the whole school was taught this spell during the Chamber of Secrets.
3. Expelliarmus!
Despite that, it became Harry's trademark spell against more or less everything that was evil, especially against Voldemort. The fact that it worked every single time wasn't due to the greatness of the simple spell, but due to the twin cores, the fact that Harry was a part of Voldemort, and because Harry was more or less lucky at times. Sure, Expelliarmus can be useful in certain occasions, but it's no more useful than, for example, a Stupefy spell. Remus Lupin even mentioned the fact that Harry makes a fool of himself by using it.
What creature sat in the corner the first time Harry Potter visited my office in Hogwarts?
What do you mean?
What creature?
Grindylow!
Nevertheless, the boy who only wants to do his arm is stubborn enough to use the spell whenever he has the possibility to use it. No, Expelliarmus is by a clear mile the most overused and overly highly valued spell in the whole Wizarding World.
Expelliarmus! Nice one, James!
So, that was my top 10 of the most overly valued Harry Potter spells. If you thought one of the spells didn't belong in the list, or if you have a spell that did belong in the list but wasn't in there, please leave a comment in the section below. And in general, this was my first top 10, so if you did like it, please leave a like, it would help out a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.